So, what happens next? We've got a whole season just waiting to be watched in October. What is the big next step for the overall story of the Walking Dead show? Well, right now, I want to talk about the Whisperer War. I want to talk about how the show is going to handle the Whisperer War and how it's kicked off. This video will have spoilers for the comics and some of the show. So, how does it start? How is the Whisperer War gonna start? Is it just because the characters cross over the border, or is there something else that kicks off a war? I'll explain to you what happens in the comic, and then we're going to discuss how it's going to happen in the show and how much it's going to change. So I'm going to read to you what the whole plot of issue 157 is, and then we're going to completely turn it around for the show and add the characters from the show into the story, and hopefully we're going to know what happens in season 10. So this is how the Whisperer War starts in the comics. The survivors have set up checkpoints that different subgroups guard and keep clear. A week has passed since Negan went missing. This of course is because he escaped in order to kill Alpha and redeem himself for the survivors and become a good character now. Dwight, Laura, Magna and he are monitoring a checkpoint when they spot Negan. Dwight wants Magna to shoot him immediately, but she refuses when it is clear that he is unarmed and not hostile. They agree to take him back to Rick. Negan tries to grab Lucille from Dwight's back, but Dwight doesn't let him and Negan teases him. Beta finds Alpha's headless corpse and mourns her loss. Some other Whisperers arrive and note how Negan isn't around to claim his title. Beta says he would never allow him to become the Alpha, but also that he himself does not intend to claim the role. He doesn't want there to be another Alpha ever. They will be guided by her words. He informs them that they will kill everyone. Negan shows the head to Rick and Andrea, who are very hesitant to believe and trust him. Negan assures them that he only wants the trust. He says Rick's way of thinking is inspiring and tries to convince them that his time in prison has rehabilitated him. He says he could have taken several chances and attacked Rick, but he didn't. He wants to fight with him, not against him. Rick finally agrees to let Negan out of the cell, but not in a community. He will live in an outpost, alone, with only enough food and weaponry to keep him surviving, though he would not be allowed these freedoms until Rick was ready to allow it. He is going to be monitored for a long time and will fight on the front lines against the Whisperers. He will earn his freedom after the war, unless he slips up, in which case he will be killed immediately. Rick speaks with Dwight on how this war will be different. It would not be a land war. They have the advantage in terms of firepower and strategy, unlike in the war against Negan. They would attack until the Whisperers retreat, and when that happens, they would hunt down and kill every single one. They would also need people on horseback to redirect the herd of roamers. Rick remarks that although he doesn't trust Negan, he is a great asset to have. He asks Dwight to keep an eye on Negan and Dwight agrees. Maggie offers up a large number of people as soldiers. Michonne is shocked at how many there are. Carl and Lydia offer to join the army, but Michonne refuses, telling them that they must stay at the hilltop and defend it alongside Maggie and Dante. Michonne says they aren't even sure if the Whisperers will attack, but Lydia confirms that they will because otherwise it would be a sign of weakness. Dwight, Magna, Gabriel and some others are discussing geographical strategies. They set themselves up within earshot of one another in case a battle ensues. Gabriel is to be stationed at a water tower, where he can have miles of advantage. If he sees the enemy approaching, he is to sound the horn. At the kingdom, Zachary asks William why they should send any members to the soldiers. The resident is angry and says that the others have not earned their contribution. They say that Michonne should not lead because she broke Ezekiel's heart, and that he wouldn't bend to Negan and the Saviors, and he wouldn't want them to bend to Rick either. Eugene is on the radio with Stephanie. They both wish for eventual peace in their hectic world. He reveals that they are situated outside of Washington DC, near the East Coast. She says he shouldn't have said that because she can't say where she is from. Eugene says that he doesn't care because he trusts her. After a brief pause, she reveals that her community is in Ohio, and remarks that she hopes he isn't evil. Rick laments to Andrea on not being able to fight in the war. Andrea mentions how she will be spending most of her time in the bell tower, making sure nobody slips through. He asks if she agrees with him on Negan, and she says that at first she wasn't sure about his call, but she has grown to trust Rick Grimes, regardless of whether or not she trusts Negan. Dwight and his subgroup get into their position. They see a mirror flashing on the horizon, which signifies Magna's group arriving at their position. A short time later, Gabriel arrives at his tower, pulls out his rifle, looks down the scope and sees a huge herd of roamers and possibly Whisperers walking down the street. He is startled at their numbers. Everyone else in the joined communities is waiting and going about their business. Rick assures the people at Alexandria that aren't fighting that they are safe and that there's no reason to be scared because they are doing everything in their power to be safe. There is no cause for worry. So that is the whole issue 157. That's how the Whisperer War starts. It's because of Negan beheading Alpha that Beta starts the war, because he's angry that Alpha is dead. Of course, Negan redeems himself. That's what he was trying to do by killing Alpha and showing them the head, but in the process starting a Whisperer War. And this is a 6-part Whisperer War, and especially because it starts with Alpha's death, I do not know when it's going to start and when it's going to end. Especially with Snow in the show now, I think it's going to be some of the best moments of The Walking Dead we're going to see. And I think they've added this massive Snow element to the show so that they can make it as different to the all-out war arc of the show, The Saviors, than it could possibly be, because season 8 was the worst time of The Walking Dead. And not to say the writing alone couldn't make this better than season 8, but the Snow's going to add positive obstacles to the show and to the characters. It's going to be really, really good. So I've shown you what happens next in the comics, but what's going to happen next in the show? I really wanted to talk more about Negan and Alpha. Will Negan still behead Alpha to redeem himself? Honestly, I don't think he will. I think he's going to have heavy involvement with it, and he's still going to redeem himself because of this. But people seem to think it's going to be Carol who does it. People know Carol. You know Carol. She will get revenge. She will avenge Henry. People want to see Carol behead Alpha to ultimately avenge every single person that was on the pike. So if Carol's the one to do it, how will Negan redeem himself? Well, don't forget, there's one person, there's one story arc on this show that isn't being seen to enough, and I think will have a massive, massive place in the show in season 10. Daryl. Daryl still hates Negan. And who's the one person in the whole show that can get through to Daryl? Carol. If Negan escapes, if he seduces Alpha, if he becomes a close ally, and manages to get Alpha in stabbing range of Carol, Daryl would finally even consider to give Negan the time of day if he found out Negan did this for Carol. If Negan actually helped Carol to avenge Henry for Carol, I think everyone would look at Negan differently. And don't forget, it needs to be a pretty big thing Negan does to redeem himself. And even in the comics, after he beheads Alpha himself, he's still not allowed into a community. He's allowed to just go into an outpost alone. And even then, he's got to survive the war. He's got to fight on the front lines. But Negan helping Carol in some way to kill Alpha, I feel like it is really the only way he can redeem himself, because Daryl is playing Rick's part right now in the show. How is he going to be able to be a character on screen out of a cell without completely redeeming himself for Daryl? The only way to redeem yourself for Daryl is to help Carol. I honestly feel like that's the only way you could do it. I don't think there's anything you can do for Daryl. Even if you saved him, he will still have eternal hate for Negan. So I feel like he needs to do something that helps Carol out. So what happens next, the thing that will really progress the story next, is killing Alpha. That has to happen for the war to start. And I think Negan and Carol are the ones to do it. Now I do want to talk about something that isn't quite something to look forward to. When I was explaining to you about what happens in the comics to kick off the Whisperer War, you might have heard me talk about Gabriel on a water tower. Now this is his assigned position for issue 157, but in the next issue, when climbing down from the water tower, he breaks his ankle on the ladder, is hanging upside down by his leg, and is gutted by Beta, and then devoured by walkers. So just a heads up, when the season 10 trailer is out and you see anyone on a water tower by themselves with a sniper rifle, that is going to be the character who most probably has Gabriel's death. It's really difficult to tell exactly who this could be. Deaths don't normally affect me. I kind of just look forward to them most of the time because they're iconic comic scenes. But in this case, this is going to be actually horrible to see, and I really, really hope it's not Gabriel. Especially with the snow and with Rick leaving, the show has never been this different than the comics before. So they could just completely do everything differently. But either way, Negan has to redeem himself. And I don't truly believe Carol is on a psycho, revenge-wanting woman yet. She seems to just be sad and torn. She doesn't seem to be visibly angry or reckless yet. Also, with Jesus being killed off early, it kind of leaves Aaron's character a bit redundant. So if they wanted to give Aaron an iconic comic scene, he would actually be a safe character. Without Jesus, he's kind of missing a piece. And of course, him having a daughter just boosts him up there for being able to be killed off. So let me know what you think. Do you think the show will do the Whisperer War better than the comics? Do you think we're going to get more characters killed off? How do you think Negan will redeem himself? Will it have anything to do with Alpha? Do you think Carol will even want to kill Alpha? together? What do you think it would take for Daryl and Negan to be on screen together happily? And of course, what do you think of Gabriel's comic death? Who do you think will take it in the show? Someone will be up on that water tower. It's actually a big part of the issue. They see the herd and the herd sees them. Let me know. Of course, like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe so that you are the first to hear about The Walking Dead. Thanks for watching.
Beat. The gingerbread boy, cause he's pretend bread boy. Little cookie man never waved to me, so he got knocked out because I flow